guys, beautiful man. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode on Andertons TV, and today my special guest is Eric Gales.
What's
it's
up?
It's lovely to see you again, man.
Good, you too, man. You too, man.
And you're over here touring.
Yeah.
Touring, got an insane number of dates in Europe, haven't
It's crazy, crazy.
New album, which we're going to talk about, Bookends, which is, I love that album. I'm going to give you a little insight into kind of the crazy life that is lunchtime with Eric Gales and the crew. Sitting around, eating fish and chips and playing word games with LaDonna.
That's it, man.
I tell you,
That's
man,
it.
it's wild. Wild. So let's talk about the last time I saw you, Middle of the Road had just come out. And that was almost like a, kind of had a feeling like you were stripping it back, you know, getting it back to the sort of more rootsy stuff. And now Bookends feels like you've turned the funk up a bit more. I always know when there's going to be a good Eric Gales tune because you always spell it wrong, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And like that,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
if it's spelt wrong, it's going to be
Guaranteed.
a really good tune.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about, you know, Bookends and how, you know, what were the inspirations were. And...
Well, to be honest with you, I think Middle of the Road was like the really the starter for kind of this change that was, you know, and that was when I mean by I said it started, it was the beginning of me implementing, doing stuff and writing material that pretty much showed how I like different styles of stuff. Middle of the Road was kind of the first chapter of a beginning and an ending that had sort of all kinds of variations in between that start and end point. With that being said, the Bookends was, in my opinion, in my perception, was taking what I started with Middle of the Road and going even the next step further. So the whole meaning of the term Bookends is taking you on a voyage and trying to stop on as many journeys as possible from A to B in between. And when I listen back at the product, I feel really accomplished that an initial thought that came to me, like, man, I really want the world to get a glimpse of how much I like different styles of stuff and how I would incorporate it in stuff that I would do.
Yeah.
So that's how the continuation of the Bookends came about. And a lot of the ideas and a lot of the people implemented in that record kind of came just from sheer inspiration during the moment in time.
Right.
Pre-production was really intense. It started out with the original producer that we were going to use. He died right before the record was to be in pre-production. So actually his manager managed other producers, and he pitched the name Matt Wallace, who has a history with Faith No More, Maroon 5, and, you know, quite a few other credited bands that he's worked with. We went in and had the meeting, and it just hit right off the bat. And but pre-production was done with no one else in the room.
Right.
And, you know, I went out there, and it was just me and my wife and the engineer, Zach Darling, which is a really great guy, man. He's a really good, his last name is Darling, by the way. Zach Darling was the engineer, and the stuff was just spewing out. It was like spontaneous ideas that just came. And one of the guests that came by that sings on the record is B. Slade, and you know, he offered a whole nother spectrum to, you know, the vocal perspective of this record. And I wanted, you know, I think that it's kind of been established in the last 17 records that I can play guitar just a little bit.
Right.
I think that may have, you know, I've tried to get that established in 17 records. So I wanted more focus to be on the vocal content, more of the vocal performance, more of the lyrics, more of the melodies, and the songs, and with the combination of how the whole recipe came together. And there was some intense recording sessions that happened, and, you know, quite a few of them were done where I was tracking and my wife was wiping the tears from my face all at the same time because it was just so emotional and so intense. One song in particular was Southpaw Serenade. You know, it had no lyrics to it at first, and you just felt the intensity from the chord changes in it. And you know, B. Slade came in and he was listening at the stuff, and he just began to just get emotional about the tunes and stuff like that. So that brought a whole nother spectrum to this record being so intense with Something's Gotta Give, and how all of that came about. And pedal to the metal and everything that's in it, and so Southpaw Serenade became to be about, Southpaw, as we all know, means left-handed. So, the co-writers that I use for this record, one is Greg Sane, G Sharp we call him, a longtime friend of the family, and he's one of my co-writing partners, and I told him what kind of idea I had, and I wanted to write a song about being left-handed and growing up in a world that was not always kind to people that played left-handed. I tell the story live, and back in the day, it was discouraged to people that played like we do. Colleges and music, and I'll leave the names out, but there are some out there that actually told people like me to come back when you learn how to play the right way, and that's not. Imagine that being told to a 9 or 10-year-old, and that's the way that they play, and that's how they're comfortable playing. So, I think however you play is how you play, and just go for it with it in whatever you do. So I said, why not? Let's include a good friend of mine, Doyle Brimhall, on the record. And unless you read in the notes or you actually know his style, there's another left-handed player that done quite a bit of the bass work on this record by the name of, he goes by Mono Neon, and he's an insanely intense bass player, and he's left-handed the same way. So everybody's on that track is playing left-handed.
It's a great track.
Yeah. So that's how they came about, and Beth Hart, man, there's no words for her performance and how she, just let it all out. And everybody contributed, LaDonna was there for hefty support and just there for whatever ways that she could possibly be, and she also did some immaculate background singing on the record that you definitely can hear her voice.
When you've played on the same stage and on the same records as some of the best guitar players in the world. When you talk about the singing side, when you have someone like Beth Hart in the studio with you, is it kind of like a whole new level of intimidating again, because she can sing like with the best of them?
Well, I'm going to explain this in a very unorthodox way. The question that you asked to me is the same question I asked to her, as to why is she getting so nervous being around me. But I feel the same way about, she has this particular style that is, when I hear her sing, it's her doing her own thing, but I can't help but to hear reminiscences of Janis Joplin and such powerful artists that, just left the music industry, stood still in time from their works and what she did. And she is a torch carrier of that same intensity that I feel when I hear such power that come out of artists such as Janis Joplin and a whole lot of other artists, Tina Turners, and it was some real strength that came. And another thing that I really decided to incorporate her for is because we have kind of similar but different struggles that we've been through in life that we've now overcame. And I think that the pairing up of two quote unquote powerhouses that has overcome something together, then the mountain's got to move, you know what I mean? So you just stand in front of the mountain and tell them to get out the way, you know what I mean? Because, what we've been through and the things that we've succumbed to and, have basically, came with a clean delivery out of, that has for centuries taken a lot of people that I admire and inspired by, has taken them out, you know what I mean? So to be standing here still today, to be able to give a powerful story and then play about it behind that, it's a connection that's made with the listener that is undeniable.
Was there a story behind the choice of the song you did with her? 'Cause you obviously
it was actually, we kind of altered the lyrics a little bit, because in the song it says, I can get high with a little help from my friends. I said, well, I don't think anybody's in the world is going to get mad if I choose to say, we can get by with help from our friends. We don't have to get high no more. That's just, me. And that's kind of our mantra with us, and I don't knock anybody for what they do. I mean, I lived my life a long time doing what I wanted to do, but for now, I had no problem promoting and glamorizing and publicizing the fact that I did get high, and I had no problem with it. So now why would I have a problem with promoting and glamorizing the fact that I don't?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in that aspect, and she's on the same page. So I think, you know, life has made a full 360
That's
turnaround.
Cool. I like the kind of I love the stuff that you do. I was saying over lunch, I love the stuff that you do where I can really sense on the record that the energy, and you push it and it gets like kind of funky and dirty at the same time. Does that, I mean, how do you, is it possible to kind of write that in, or does that energy only really come out when the band starts, you know, you hit the record button and it's all like?
That's a good question. I would say more or less the second half of what you just described. It's just hit the record button and this is what happens. A lot of that happens, like I may invest into some kind of way having a recording device available at all times when me and my band, which is the drummer Nicholas Hayes, and the bass player and keys player Byron Carter, both of them guys are very intense players, and they follow along. And one of the things that I feel that has enabled them to consistently on a nightly basis be able to follow along with a leader that is very unpredictable. I will take a sharp right turn in a minute, and I think it's from the upbringing of us all. We all come up in the church background, and there's no better teacher than coming up in the type of church that we grew up in. Like, you had to be on your game, you know what I mean? Or you were highly embarrassed if you weren't. And you were told about it, and you could go with your lip poked out to your parents, and they would tell you, "Don't look at me, you the one screwed up. So you know, just work on it and practice some more and fix it." So having that as a background is, you know, stuff that, you know, kind of weaned them for artists like me. You know what I mean? I'm not the only one out here like this, but I'm the only one that does me the way I do me. And I want to say that again. I'm the only one that does me how I do me. Yeah. It would be different if I was me trying to do somebody else. And I don't knock anybody that, you know, like imitating or doing anything that they are inspired by, but at some point you have to put your own spices and your own salt and pepper on that meal to make it yours. Yeah. So with that being said, you know, all of the band members, you know, and I think the world now knows that my wife LaDonna is in the group, and her area and section of percussion and background vocals is like seeming to be getting bigger and bigger every tour. Some kind of way, something's being added to her. You know, something will hit my mind, and I'm like, look, I need this added, and she adds it on. And, you know, I began talking about that by, you know, the different variations of how the songs differ in the record. So beatboxing, it just bees that way, starts out with beatboxing because I'm a fan of rap. So I incorporated that, you know, with a little bit of funk, a little bit of New Orleans in there. You know, it's just my take on everything that I'm influenced by, trying to make it fit in the 11 songs. Yeah. And, you know, who knows? The next record could be Bookends Part 2, because there's another set of villages and continents that I want to touch on, that it just doesn't stop with Bookends 1.
Your playing style, I think, you know, when I very, very first heard you and before I knew anything about you, there's something, all the riffs that you play are so, it's so easy to go, oh yeah, that's Eric Gale's playing that stuff, which is a, you know, there's not that many guitar players on the planet, I think, who are as instantly recognizable as you. But as I sort of broke it down and started watching you playing, you realize that, of course, the fact that your strings are upside down to a regular one, it dictates a lot of the kind of the fact that the riffs come out perhaps differently to perhaps a right-handed player. But even when you were playing with Doyle, and who's playing the same thing, again, stylistically, you're quite different. But can you look at what Doyle does and sort of go, oh yeah, I kind of, what am I trying to say? You know, can you relate to a player like that more than you can to a player that plays, you know?
That's a very good question. Honestly, I actually can relate more to a right-handed player. Right. I mean, I can relate to them both, but growing up, 90% of the people that I'm influenced by were right-handed players. So a lot of that came from listening at, you know, and just figuring it out. So watching a person like you that play right-handed, I don't have to turn my head upside down. I can automatically know what you're doing and know where in configuration hand-wise that it'll take me to. And 85 to 90% of that is listening to what you did and remembering from 40 plus years of playing that, okay, this is where I'm gonna go to achieve this. It will definitely be fingered in a different way.
Yes.
But I can, of course, I can relate a little bit faster to a left-handed player because it's mirroring something that a way that I play.
Yeah.
But I grew up watching and listening to a bunch of right-handed players, and it just have got commonplace for me to be able to figure it out.
Yeah, it's funny because I think Doyle's an amazing guitar player.
Awesome player.
All the stuff he does in his own right, all the stuff he's done with Clapton, it's like a killer player. But again, I don't think he sounds as different as you do, if that makes sense. Like, he doesn't. I don't think you could. If you listened to the two players, I don't think you'd instantly go, "What is it about Doyle's playing that makes him sound different?" Because he kind of. I don't think it's so. It almost just sounds like it's just a right-handed. The licks are more.
I understand what you're saying.
Like a right-handed player would play them, whereas all your licks have that unique. Upside down.
I never looked at it that. I never looked at it that way. I just, at the end of the day, I just try to. I try to emulate what it is that I feel in my heart and soul, and translate that to my fingers as best as I can. It don't always come out like I want to, but I can honestly say about 95% of the time it does come out like I'm hearing it.
You've got an amazing tour coming up. I mean, London, playing in Guildford tonight, London tomorrow night, all over Europe, into some crazy places, Romania, the whole thing. You're here till August, I think, aren't you? So,
man, it's basically the run is gonna supersede till, it would give or take a week and a half off here and there, is gonna go all the way up till November. To be honest with you,
good for
with
you,
sporadic,
man.
With sporadic stopping. But for right now, we're actually going to be out until the end of July, with 2 days off at home.
Who's feeding the cats at home?
Hey, well, I got.
It's going to be really skinny.
I got really good in-laws that are taking care of.
Right.
the pets at home, they're going to be pretty fat by the time we get there. So they eat very well.
So is there a song on the set list off the Bookends album that you look forward to playing the most every night when he comes
Man,
down?
that's a good question. There are a few of them.
Yeah.
There are a few of them. How Do I Get You just go somewhere, man. It's a really beautiful piece of music that it just goes somewhere. It just bees that way. It turns into something astronomical. I mean, there's some surprises that happen on that song that I can't tell you about, but you just have to be there to see it. Southpaw Serenade is emotionally intense.
Yeah.
It's crazy how it has its effect on things that, you know, in the live show. It's phenomenal, and everybody's giving it everything that they have, and you know.
What do you do? Do you do any of the old stuff? Or is it, you know?
Well, I do a combination of a few things, you know. More now, I do one song off of Middle of the Road. I do Been So Long in an extended version that goes pretty crazy. I do some homages to, you know, Howlin' Wolf, Smokestack Lightning.
Cool.
And I do a song of my deceased brother, Lil Jimmy King. I do a song off of his that we originally did on the Gales Brothers record.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of that, and you know, I sometimes tend to, you know, break into Swamp off of the Middle of the Road record, and you know, it gives LaDonna some serious shine time in that. Boxing with that tambourine like she does, and she really does. And maybe you can help us out. I'm trying to get her a tambourine endorsement or something like that.
A tambourine endorsement. We'll endorse you. I'll get you a special Andertons one made up. You can take it everywhere around the world.
But it's pretty intense though, you know, and from time to time I'll go back to, there was one instrumental record that I put out called Ghost Notes. And,
okay.
You know, I go and sometimes take a tune or two from that, and you know, but definitely, like I say, I got 18 albums to play with material to do. It's so
crazy, isn't
it?
I
try to tend to stay with the most recent couple of records that I do, but eventually I am going to, like, you hear it here first, I am eventually going to go into doing, say, for instance, a segment of the show that's from the original Eric Gales band, and a segment of the show that's from, you know, the Gales brothers, and a segment of the show from the instrumental record, and a segment of the show from Current. So I'm gonna figure it out some kind of way.
It is. I mean, congratulations again. I think you were saying that you were in the top 10 on the Billboard for 3 months with.
Man,
Bookends.
You know what? That was such an accomplishment. This year has been unbelievable. In that sense, there was an awards called the BMAs that happens in Memphis, Tennessee, and I so happened to, I was in the category with a lot of my colleagues that I admire, ZZ Top, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, a lot of people, and I took home the Blues Rock Artist Award of the Year.
Oh, amazing!
And that on top of the record being in the top 10, top 15 for 3 months on Billboard. That's awesome, and I just found out like last week that my hometown there's a street there called Beale Street that's very famous.
Yeah.
And just like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, they have a Beale Street, you know, music note engraved in a sidewalk, and I found out that I'm the recipient of getting a brass note.
That's amazing.
This year, so it's a lot that has happened in this year. I don't know what else, you know, I could look forward to, but you know, hey, I am definitely knocking on the Grammy people's door to see if they'll let me in, and you know, we'll go from there. I mean, one can only wish and hope. So I mean,
well, it's I mean, if everyone who's watching this that hasn't seen the interview that we did with Eric when he was over last time, you know, you had a amazing start to your musical career, and then a pretty tough, although maybe at the time you didn't realize it was tough, but you know, you had a pretty tough 25 something like that years.
Yeah.
And so I know you're very you spoke last time feeling like you're kind of playing catch up now, but you're very, very gracious about the success that you're having, and I can tell, you know, it means a lot to you and working super hard. So if you've not seen Eric on tour, you absolutely must, and at the very least go listen to the Bookends album. It's a great, I have it on in the car a lot. It's one of those kind of driving albums where you just want to, you know, have to be careful about the speed limit.
Right.
I think the music makes you want to go a bit too fast. I mean, gear-wise, since we last saw you, you definitely at least had one of these Magneto guitars, but looks like you've got a bit more of a deal going with them now, with your name on it and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if the one with the mirror scratch plate, that looks new.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, with the scratch plate on it, it's they just upgraded the smoke plate, and you know, generally you see me playing Rosewoods, and I've gotten a little more into the maple, and I've always liked maple, but you know, it's like I have grown for this one to be my number one.
Right.
For now, you know what I mean? I have an array of things ranging from Paul Reed Smith to Exotic to John Page to Olympus to Magneto. It might be some that I'm Saint Blues. It might be a couple that I'm missing because I have so many of them. Of course, I have a couple of Strats at home too. It just boils down to what feels the most. When I have played something for a minute, then I have gotten to be quite comfortable with how it sits. So the Magnetos are definitely my go-tos for sure. Yeah, definitely for sure. I even have a old Danny Electro.
Oh, right.
At home that I use from time to time.
Oh, like one of the 59s or whatever, that's like the double cut, crazy old Jimmy Page things.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you were here last time, the Raw Dog amp with DV Mark was gonna happen, but I don't think it had happened. And so you were using like a Greg Howe.
I was using a Greg Howe, right.
So these things, people will know watching this that I am always super cynical about anything that is solid state. But this thing, I kind of like what you've done with this. It's got a really organic and loud tone.
That for sure.
And then you get some tone from pedals. But we should talk about these because these are way more affordable, you know, than you expect like artist signature gear to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about how this came about.
Honestly, man, Marco over at Mark Bass, which is idealistically a bass company, and the DV Mark side is the guitar amp side of the company. And he was like, man, I would like to tailor an amp for you that, you know, would be to your specifics of the tone and everything. So it is solid state powered, but it is driven by a tube that is creating the tone. Yeah. So there is a tube. I think it's a perfect blend of a hybrid. And you know, it is a single channel because I told him in any amp that I use, Marshall, whatever, I like it to be, I judge it by how clean and loud that it can get. So if it does that first, then idealistically it would be compatible well with pedals. Sure. So basically it's a one channel amp that is, you know, the best power is ran 8 ohms into it ran into 2 8-ohm cabinets. Yeah, and that gives you your full power.
But it's crazy loud, isn't it? I mean, but you like it loud.
I just love it. Can't be loud enough. But you know, it's under $400. We're in June now, and if I'm not mistaken, Marco over at Mark Bass, how you doing, Marco? These are the beginnings of my signature cabs, which will have my name on the side of them. Right there, there are 25 waters in there, and you know, they also, if I'm not mistaken, this month it is a 60-watt combo amp. That's basically this head in a 112 cabinet. It's comboed, and you can actually it has extension speaker out to run a 412 or, you know, 410 or whatever. It
must be, if you're using 25-watt speakers in the cab, do you like that kind of sound where the speaker itself starts to sound like it's on edge and there's a little bit of that sort of crispiness of the sound kind of starting to break up through the speaker?
It all depends on what vibe I'm in. You know, sometimes I like that. Not always is that co-adhesive with, say for instance, a pedal that you may be running through it. You might have to dial back on the gain or something to let more of the gain from the speaker come through. Yeah. But how I have it, man, with the power that it has, I mean, I can get as loud as I want and there's no breakup still. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it is something that, you know, when I go to and I'm playing powerful, you know, with the pedals and stuff like that, I like to go back to playing beautiful chords and I want the volume to be just the same. Yeah. So that's the particulars about how I like the clean and dirty to be compatible with each other.
Can we get some? Just do some. Give me some, like, I don't know how you like it clean for some nice big chords, and then maybe stomp on, because you got some cool. Some of these pedals I think you had last time. You definitely had the Brute Drive and the Boost DLA.
Yep.
The Whammy is cool.
Yep.
Pretty sure the Wah-Wah's new. Or at least that super diamond encrusted one is new.
Jimmy Dunlap had that made for me actually a week ago by some people in London. He texted me last week and said, "Dude, I'm in London. I'm having a pedal. Because he knew my other one, I had to retire it because it's got beat up and everything. So he said, I made another one for you while I was here in London."
Wicked looking.
So that's just basically a Bob Bradshaw wah with the diamond encrusted. That's the Colossus Fuzz.
Yeah.
Mojo made by Mojo Hand. That's the MXR base envelope filter. I like the base envelope filter as opposed to a regular envelope filter. The Ditto, TC Electronics. The Octavia made by MXR. The Brute Drive, and for my regular gain, I just like this mini tube screamer, man, and it gets the point across.
What's the track? Is it the penultimate track on Bookends where the Whammy comes out and it's quite a nice, where all the chords are kind of going up and down on the octave?
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember.
It's either the second to last one or the third to last one.
Oh, it's the last song.
Oh, it's the last song.
It's Resolution. The last one. It's
that's it.
Something
Resolution.
like. That's it. Stuff like that.
It's a cool one.
Yeah.
It's not really the kind of pedal board that you'd expect almost like a straight up blues guy to have. Things like the envelope filter and the Whammy. So you put a lot of kind of your own flavors and styles into the music from the pedals, don't you? Which is cool. Exactly. And sometimes it's like you're not really expecting it, and you get this like, whoa, where did that come from? It's super cool.
And I like moments like that because though blues and rock is, at my core, there are so many other different things that I like that is on top of that, So it's kind of a expect the unexpected,
Yeah. And I guess with people would always go, well, can you get a really great kind of driven tone with a pedal into a hybrid?
Absolutely.
But if you kick the tube screamer in, this just sounds amazing.
Yeah, man. Great tone. Follow behind with a nice clean.
It's a big bass. The bass end doesn't compress, does it? On this,
not at all.
Nice and open.
No,
and
I would have a problem with it if it does compress. I hate compression.
Right.
I want it, full attack,
full dynamic. Yeah, absolutely, man.
And the fuzz is just, beautiful tone.
I should have sat the other side of you because I can't see any of the chords. It's a great big fat sound. Well, it's always a pleasure to see you, man. Spend a little bit of time with you. Really looking forward to tonight. It's going to be a killer gig.
Me too, man.
As I said before, I really appreciate you taking the time out and coming down to see us every time you come over.
I appreciate
and good luck with everything.
Thank you, man.
And as I said, check this man out. He's a living legend. And that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll put details in the description below where you can find out more about the gear and about Eric and stuff like that.
Great to see y'all, man. It was a blast.
Thanks for rocking the t-shirts as well, man.
Oh, absolutely. I have so much fun being here with Mr. Anderton, and it is. I got a feeling we'll do this again sometime.
Every time.
And this is beautiful, man.
All right, beautiful. Man. Well, good luck. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.
See you later. Superb. Superb.
I forgot double hit it to stop it.
It's all good. It's all good.